Well, let us just speak some basics of the laws as they are, and then we'll walk through this in a way that you and others will follow and understand. Because when most say scattered energy, it's as if they think that they have to focus on some specific thing that they want and hone in on it in order to reel it in and bring it about. And so they think their energy's scattered. They're thinking about too many things, and it's kind of like if you've got a lot of things to do and you're trying to do so many things, then you jack of all trades and master of none is sort of the human sentiment about that. And we want to make it very clear that it's not scattered energy, it's contradictory energy. Only a thought about something and a thought in opposition of it that ever slows it down or puts resistance in it. You can be creating hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things simultaneously, and when you focus toward them, if you're not contradicting your thought about it, then you're setting it into motion, and law of attraction will follow through and it will become a reality. So it's important to understand that it's the contradictory thought that is the only thing that ever hinders anything that comes into your experience. Therefore, if it is in fact true that you're thinking about what you want and you're always feeling good and always feeling satisfied, and yet some of the things that you think you want aren't coming, then it must be that you don't really want what you think you want. Because you are creating exactly what you put into your vortex, and if what's unfolding isn't what you think you want, then that's where the disconnect is. If you really believe that you've got positive emotion going on all the time and what you want isn't happening, then you don't want what you think you want, which is never the case. What is the case is you don't have positive emotion going on all the time. And that's the reason that we are commenting in a stronger way, wanting to put more emphasis upon your personal realization of whether this is a satisfying thought or not. You don't have to clean up all your thoughts. We don't want you to dig in and try to get to the bottom of things. We just want you to lean positively or change the subject. Just don't contradict your thoughts. And the way you clean that up is just by asking yourself, is this a satisfying thought? Now let's play with this a little bit, because you've all got the idea of it, and many of you are doubting that it's as simple as that, but it really is just as simple as that, because it's this way. You see, you're living life right here and now, and it doesn't matter what you've lived. It doesn't matter what your financial condition has been. In fact, the more contrast you've lived, the more good stuff you've put in your vortex that has already summoned cooperative components. But if you're dissatisfied, you're not one of the cooperative components. If you're satisfied, you're one of the cooperative components. So here's the thing we really, really, really want you to hear. A man was talking about a barbecue contraption that he's invented. And he wants the funding, and he wants the world to embrace it, and he wants it to sell, and he wants to get a lot of money because he has some things that he wants to do with the money. So as we chewed for a little while with him, then we began asking the audience, does this man have to feel satisfaction about this barbecue contraption here and now in order for it to go, for the success of it to happen? And the entire audience knew that he didn't have to feel satisfaction about that. He just had to feel satisfaction. Because if you believe that you've got to feel satisfaction about the thing that you don't feel satisfaction about, I'm going to feel satisfaction about this thing that I don't feel satisfaction about. Are you satisfied? Yeah, I'm satisfied. Yeah, I'm satisfied. But you're not. You're under a different influence. But what are you satisfied about? There are thousands of things in any moment in time that you could find to be satisfied about. And when you decide that the name of this game is to lean in the direction of this influence, what influence are you wanting to be under? Really, friends, you are the only uncooperative component in the desires that are coming into being for you. Whew. Little by little, you said, I'd like that, I'd like that, I prefer that, I'd prefer that. Law of attraction gathered them as cooperative components. And you know what? All of your desires, hear this, all of your desires are cooperating with each other. Source, law of attraction, have gathered them. These cooperative components are there. When you're dissatisfied, you're not one of the cooperative components. So you can't be in a place where you can receive the impulse or the train of thought that will lead you to where you want to be. Sometimes you think, well, I don't really want to be under the influence, so I'm led. I just want it to happen and I'll just show up later. And we say, well, that's the biggest flaw that most humans believe. You are creators and you want to create, and the only satisfaction you're ever feeling is when you have asked for something and you're letting yourself move toward it. You've got to be under that influence and moving toward the magnificent things that you put into your vortex little by little, or you cannot feel satisfaction. So if you decide that you're going to win the lottery and you can't conceive of that, and you know the odds of that, and so your own thoughts are working against, that's what you're calling scattering of thoughts. And that's what we're calling contradictory thoughts to what you desire. We think winning the lottery could be a very satisfying thing. We're not trying to get you to not want the things that you want. We're just showing you how you get there. Here's the thing. When you live life and it causes you to create preferences, to identify preferences, and then your preferences gather together and there's a magnificent unfolding. If you can manage to stay in a state of satisfaction just because thought by thought you're catching it when the first dissatisfaction happens and you don't let it take hold, the advantage that law of attraction brings you that is most discernible to you, most palpable, most present, is the gift. We'll just use that word, the gift of good timing. Because when you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on, because you're not doing that thing you do that keeps you from being, then you rendezvous in more timely things with thoughts about past, present, or future, with thoughts that are beneficial, and with impulses that are beneficial, and with others who are beneficial, and with experiences that are beneficial. And that's what a satisfying life is. You can't have an unhappy journey on the way to a happy ending. It just doesn't happen. It's happy, 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 happy. We could even say it feels really good, really good, really good, gooder, 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 gooder. And of course, we agree with all of you about this. The explosion into the manifestation, that's the brink that you all want to be upon. And that's the moment in time that you feel the most exhilaration. In other words, manifestation matters. You're here in this physical time and space because you are creators into the physical. Thoughts are turning to things, and you want thoughts to turn to things. But as humans, you've become so enamored with that moment when the thoughts turn to the things, and you're so enamored with the things that you forget about the deliciousness of the journey, which is the only reason that these things ever exist. They're the final product of this joyous journey, and your life is about the joyous journey, not about the product. You are creators who are creating. And you are also the creation. You are the happy being. That's the creation. And you are in your happiness creating. Are you getting the sense of what we're talking about? There's so many people that just want to fast forward. Just give me the goods. Just give me the goods and then I'll be happy. And we say, you'll be happy thinking about them. You'll be happy identifying them. You'll be happy moving toward them. You'll feel satisfaction as you gain more clarity. You'll feel satisfaction as more people co-create with you. You'll feel satisfaction as the ideas get bigger and funner and fuller and faster. You'll have more fun as more cooperative components join the game that you are in the process of. In other words, that's what it's all about. It's about the joyous journey. You don't have to change your contradictory thoughts. Just don't keep thinking them. It's like Esther with her floor. She just drags that experience. She just continues to speak it. She lived it. And then the next year she kept living it. And then the next year she kept living it. And then the next year she kept living it. And 10 years later, she's standing here living it. And she could have left it behind 10 years ago. But because she's like most humans, looking at the floor is easier than finding a satisfying thought. And so when she's not there, she takes her attention away from it. Mostly. But not when she's there. When she's there, she's possessed by that floor. You should see how many rugs she has put on that floor. New runner down the hallway. There's a runner over there. There's a big circular rug over there. A great big rug over there. A great big rug over there. You can hardly see any of the floor. So it's the continuing to renew it that keeps it active in your vibration. A belief is only a thought that you continue to think. And you continue to think it. Here it is. You continue to think it because satisfaction doesn't matter as much to you as it does to your inner being. You're willing to think unsatisfactory thoughts because they're true. Because they shouldn't have put that floor down. That's true. And it was their fault. That's true. So you continue to think thoughts that are not satisfying because they're true. And we want to say, everything that you think is going to become true. Truth is about focusing on something, giving it your attention until things move in the direction of it. In other words, you create your own reality. You get what you think about, wanted or unwanted. We're going to give you another example. So in the same house, Esther's sitting at her desk in her living room, looking out over the deck and across, and usually she sees the ocean out there, but it was gone because her own trees had grown over and obstructed her view. So she asked her gardener, could you trim these trees back so that I can see the ocean again? And he said, yes, we will. We'll take them right back to the fence line. It'll be wonderful. Then he said, but there is a tree down in the ravine that is partially blocking your view. And Esther said, well, I only own half the ravine, so it has to be on my property if we're going to do anything to it. And he said, we'll feather it out and we'll get your view back. And Esther gave him a thumbs up, and off she went to lunch. So she was off with a friend. They had a long lunch, had a lot of fun, came back. Esther walked out on her deck, and her view was back. Oh, it's so beautiful. She went in and sat at her desk. Yes, her view was back. And then she saw something that really upset her. Off there in the distance, up close to her neighbor's property, were two very large tree stumps. Yeah, uh-oh. She thought, I'm going to jail. She couldn't believe it. How could I have miscommunicated? Was my desire for my view so strong that they couldn't hear anything else? So then she thought, well, this house over here where these stumps are is being renovated. Maybe the new owners don't know that there were trees there, and maybe it'll be all right. And then a day or two passed, and she worried about it here and there. And then she looked out one day, and there was a man in a suit standing out on that patio looking at those stumps. And Esther said, the jig is up. And then he took out his phone and was taking pictures of them. So Esther thought, I better go confess. So she'd never been to the house. There's ravines, it's on a hillside. Is the road down and I drive up, or is the road up and I drive down? So it took her a while to figure out how to get in there. And when she got there, met many men in the house doing plaster and such. And she said, there was a man on the patio in a suit just now. Is he still here? And they said, no, he left. Well, on the way over, Esther had practiced her speech. I did that, and I am so sorry, and I didn't mean to, and I will make it up to you in whatever way you want. I'll replace the trees, or I'll plant your whole yard. Whatever makes that all right, I want to do it. I am so sorry. But he wasn't there, so she didn't deliver her speech. So she went home and practiced her speech more and watched for the opportunity for him. And then the next day, she went off to lunch with same friend again. And when they came back, she said, come see what I did. And so they went through the lower house and out onto the patio, and Esther pointed at the trees, and she said, my gardeners cut those down, and I don't know what I'm going to do about it. And her friend said, wait a minute. Your gardeners didn't cut those down while we were at lunch yesterday. Why isn't the hill torn up? Where's the debris from the trees? They couldn't have done that in that short a period of time. And they walked out to the edge of the property, and up closer to Esther's house, there's a very small little tree on her property, and all the debris from it was still lying right there. They just whacked it all off, and it was just right there. And all that had happened is that they had cut down a tree that made it possible for her to see something she didn't usually see. It was just circumstantial evidence. It shook Esther up, because she said, I bet there's all kinds of other dumb stuff that I believe. Because it was completely illogical. Esther's a really reasonable person. But the way that had unfolded tricked her into believing something that wasn't even real. She could not believe. She laughed. She said, really, they would have had to just cut it off and hooked it onto a helicopter and hauled it away. That's the only way that could have happened, the way I believed it. It was ridiculous that I believed that. It was ridiculous. And so there are a lot of ridiculous things that you believe that some of them didn't even happen to you. They happened to other people. But it's circumstantial evidence.